Hello Rebels and welcome back to my life. So one YouTuber that I've followed for about a year now is a guy named Dan Brown of the channel PogoBat, link in the description. Now Dan invites his viewers to contribute their own views to whatever topic he's talking about, and recently I've been getting the itch to throw my hat into the ring. Now a couple of weeks ago he started talking about the creator-consumer social contract and the value of art, and I decided to toss my 2 cents in, hence this video. We as consumers are really bad at estimating the value of art. Part of that is that we don't think about it hard enough or often enough, but part of it is that it's like really hard to think about. What metric applies to its value? I mean, the easiest concrete measurement seems to be the amount of time that we spend with it, but by that metric, we're way stupid about what we consider valuable. We'll pay $5 for a book that takes us 15 hours to read, but we'll also pay $20 to go see a movie in a theater for 2 hours. So maybe instead we take a look at the time that went into creating the art, but then we have another problem because a lot of art that takes a lot of time is considered to be free. The visual arts take a long time and can effectively be re-experienced into infinity, but hardly anybody is willing to pay for them. Being a visual artist is one of the hardest careers to maintain unless you kind of cheat and go into graphic design instead. Now I don't mean graphic design isn't valuable, obviously, but corporate design, like for logos and websites, is to true visual art what like website copywriting is to writing a novel or book series. Now what the traditional artistic industries have done is trick the consumer into paying a lot of money for an experience. The music industry makes a lot of its money on concerts. The film industry survives on the box office because we consider going to a theater a grander experience than Netflix and chill. And reading a popular New York Times bestseller gives you not only the experience of the read itself, but the experience of talking to other people about the book afterwards, if they've read it. But there is no way to correlate experience with cost because it's completely subjective. My 3 favorite artistic experiences of the last 5 years have been 3 independently published books which deeply affected me and which I think about and reread all the time. One of them took many months to write, the other 2 took the authors several years, but I only paid $5 for them, and I probably wouldn't have bought them if they cost $15 or $20. Yet next month, I'm going to pay $50 to go see the new Star Wars film in a theater with my wife. That experience will only last a couple of hours, and yes, I will remember it for a long time to come. I mean, it's the freaking Star Wars premiere, but I know that it will not as deeply affect and influence me as those 3 books, which cost less combined than that film. Now maybe I'm biased in this regard because I do write books for a living, but it seems to me that the written word seems to get the shortest end of the stick in this value of art equation. Books are one of the cheapest forms of art out there, and yet they can be the most influential. I mean, look at the Bible or the Communist Manifesto, or in fiction, The Lord of the Rings. And part of this value problem is that books, especially the traditional publishing industry, has a difficulty selling the book experience. There is no book experience like the concert or the movie theater, unless you count book signings and readings, but I don't know if you've ever been to one of those. They're frankly kind of boring, except for like the tiny moment of interaction that you yourself get with the author. Meanwhile, on the industry side of things, traditional publishing is clinging desperately to this antiquated distribution model that is expensive and wasteful and makes the profit margins like razor thin. I mean, you probably already know this, but when he released The Fault in Our Stars, John Green signed the entire first printing so that everybody who pre-ordered it and most of the people who bought it on release day would get a copy that he himself had signed. All told, tens of thousands of autographed books went to his readers, but I think like only 2/3 of that first printing sold, which means that tens of thousands more books with John Green's autograph on them were pulped. But while some stores were pulping overstocks, other stores ran out of stock and had to ship pre-order customers unsigned copies of the book. Clearly something is very wrong with this. And when an author isn't a John Green or a J.K. Rowling or a Stephen King, way more of their books are likely to be destroyed or shipped back to the publisher, both of which are bad for the environment, wasteful of time and man hours, and just like spit carbon emissions out the yin-yang. Research some of the numbers about how many traditionally published books get destroyed. They will freak you out. The only reason that the traditional publishing threat isn't an even bigger threat to the rainforests than it already is because that industry is struggling and declining. I wonder why. And before anybody says that I'm an indie and I don't know what I'm talking about in the publishing industry, I actually used to work for a publisher that had multiple New York Times bestsellers and distributed all over the world and wasted or shipped back less than 5% of its final product, which is freaking unheard of in publishing. So the book industry is the one that I obviously happen to know the most about, but I think that it points to the problem in other industries, and maybe the solution. Part of the problem is our tendency not to think too hard about the value of art, but part of the problem is also an industrial inability to communicate that value, or alternatively, to find new ways to make that value more valuable. And that is why we see aggregators leaping into every industry, from publishing to film to music, and finding ways to increase that value and increase distribution and make it easier on both the creator and the consumer. And to me, YouTube Red is the latest manifestation of that, and I think that it's a good one. Dan, I hope you got to watch this, and if so, thank you very much. Rebels, thank you so much as always for watching, and an extra special shout out to my supporters on Patreon who make all my YouTube videos possible. I will see you all tomorrow. Bye!